All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Great Minds Session 11. My name is Darren Adair with American Hospitality Consulting. Thank you very much for being here this evening. I really appreciate it. Today, our topic is going to be growing in a pandemic, and just kind of on the whole reasoning behind why I started Great Mind Sessions was to, talk a little bit more about the positive stuff that is going on and to share those ideas and best practices with everyone, because all we really hear of in the media is the negative things that are happening to our business, and there's our fair share of them, and we all know what they are, and it's very frustrating. But we need to hear some of those positive stories. And I have been seeing a lot of things being posted about, different restaurant brands that are adding units and growing and having success and doing all these things that are paying off for them. And it's those stories that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to share. I wanted to hear from you guys and things that you're seeing. And, I know some of you with organizations that have grown recently, and talk a little bit about that. What are the reasons behind? How do you determine? What are the steps? And all those types of things I wanted to go into and kind of share collectively as a group, how to continue to make that happen for our industry with all the changes that have happened. I mean, for me, a lot of I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, reading and sharing and posting and that kind of thing. There's a few brands that have really jumped out at me. I mean, in Canada, Firehouse Subs is really making a big push right now. Smokes Poutineery they're all over the place posting things and having some great restaurant growth. Fast Fire by Carbonis is talking about a lot of growth and having some new restaurants open up. Here in the U.S., Crave Hot Dog and Barbecue, Chicken Salad Chick, Dave's Hot Chicken, Slim Chickens. There seems to be a bit of a theme in the U.S. Freddy's Steak Burger and Frozen Custard has a lot of unit growth. So, there's a lot of positive stories out there that I think we need to make sure are being talked about and shared, but also learned from, so that we can bring those into our own businesses and find ways to make things grow. And I really wanted to focus on the unit growth. I mean, we can talk about some of the other aspects of it, but when you talk about growth, there's so many different avenues that we could get into. We can talk about sales, we can talk about employee base, although most people aren't growing their employees right now, they're struggling to find them. Unit growth, followers. There's so many different ways that a business can grow. I just, I got this thought about growth of the actual footprint and units and different ways to do that. And then when is the right time to stop that? When is the right time to have a look and say, okay, we've grown enough. Let's take a look at what we're doing before we proceed. And there was, I don't know if you've heard of Dodo's Pizza out of Europe. That's something that they just decided. They've been exploding in Europe the last couple of years, and they've just decided, you know what, it's time to hit the pause button, take a look at a few things, and we'll start up again. So those are what I was looking forward to talk about this evening. And if you do have any questions or comments as we're going through and talking, guys, just it's a small group right now, so for the rest of, if we do build up, then obviously throw it in the chat function, then I'll pull you in as we get to that point. But for me, when I was looking at this and trying to figure out, what are the things that really you need to look at when you're getting ready or wanting to grow your business or having that kind of thought process. And it's, for me, one of the first things I would really want to talk to people about is, why do you want to grow? Right? What is the reasoning behind wanting to open up that next restaurant, that next facility? Right? Is it, if your focus is because you've got a great brand, it's really well, people are really enjoying it, you're feeling comfortable in the business, and you think you're at the point where, okay, for my business to get any bigger, I have to grow. I want to do that so I can continue to service my guests. Then that's a big part of it. But if it's because, the sole focus is making money, then you may want to refocus on what you're actually trying to do. So your whys have to be solid. You need to understand those. And you got to look at, when is the right time? Is right now the right time? I may feel that I'm ready, but is the opportunity right? Do I have the things I need? Am I properly prepared? Right? Where are you going to do this? Is it going to be in your area? Is it going to be on the other side of town? How are you going to manage that? Are you going to grow just by adding a unit yourself? Or are you going to go into franchising? And if you are going to go into franchising, who are you going to do that with? Not only who are you going to give that franchise to, or that first franchise to, but who are you going to use to help you decide if they're the right person or to do it properly. Because when you're getting into that, and I've been getting a little bit more experience on that lately, and through the support of a friend of everybody on the call here, you know, it's not a simple process, and you can't just jump into it without understanding things. So those are kind of the things I wanted to talk about this evening, guys. And, you know, I've asked Angelie because she's very experienced in that aspect of things to kind of share her thoughts a little bit on the stuff she talks about with her clients. She's helped many brands franchise and grow over the years. And, you know, so I thought she'd be a great resource for us to share some of those ideas. But, you know, Angelie, before we kind of get into that, and I'd like to just see if you think that what I've talked about is kind of on the right track, and if what would you add or subtract from that?
I think also part of, yeah, no, Darren, that's a great segue. And I think part of what I would consider that I've been having a few conversations with right now with brands is the current landscape of franchisees. And so part of even what we did, you know, as you might, you know, remember back in the day, is, you know, who's at risk, who's green, who do we want to exit, and then building a pipeline accordingly from a franchisor perspective. So I think if it's a franchisor that wants to grow, then considering the current state, because I've always told my brands that they're not going to grow if the deal goes dead in validation. So you want to mystery shop your validation prior. You know, if you're in franchise sales or if you're representing a franchisor, you want to mystery shop your validation prior to going and spending a lot of money on marketing and sales growth, because yeah, you want to know what your franchisees are saying about you. Number two, it's a change management issue. So maybe we can tackle some of those things on a change management perspective. And I can talk about some of the stuff I did back when I was at Little Caesars. And I think I kind of became notorious for some of the conversations I had with franchisees, which were funny in the system. But you have to have those tough conversations. And number three, you have to make an assumptions list. So maybe we can talk about some strategies about, you know what they say about assumptions, right? And assuming. So
Yeah.
Maybe we can tackle an assumptions list and how to build one as well when you're considering growth.
Perfect. And you know, there's a lot to consider. And, you know, guys, Tom, I kind of, since you're here, I wanted to, and we haven't talked for a while, you know, how have you guys been able to handle what's been going on? I mean, obviously it's a different animal in Canada than it is in the US. And I really got to understand that when I was back home a few weeks ago and saw how it was being handled differently. But, you know, how has this impacted your growth strategy, and what have you guys done to, you know, continue to build on it?
We've we've had to slow down some of our growth plans. We were, and for those on the call that aren't aware, I'm running a couple of territories of Five Guys franchise locations and trying to grow them in terms of locations as well as volume. And so we sort of slowed down new development while we focused on the operations. And the pandemic was actually really good for us because there were not a lot of dine-in options in California during the lockdowns that they had. So we've done well. What you're reading and seeing about recruitment is challenging right now. The last 6 months have been more challenging. So looking at the top-down approach now that we've kind of realized where our vacancies are not improving. So we've gone out and invested some money in some what I would call top tier talent from the director level, and kind of got someone who would probably be a director at another company and brought them in as a DM. And so bringing in kind of different leaders to help us come up with new plans and new strategies to execute for the store level. And then as far as new locations go, just over the last couple of months have executed a couple of LOIs and working diligently to get those open. So it's a bit of a self-serve model when it comes to new locations with this franchise. So we've got a broker that we're actively working with in the areas, and doing the drives, doing the analytics on traffic counts and competition and proximity to existing restaurants and stuff like that. And yeah, touch wood, we've got 3 on the go. 2 are closer than others. 2 are closer than the other, but yeah, it's definitely the last 6 months have been more challenging than the previous 12.
Right.
But it's all right. But join in the call to see what others are doing, and
Yeah.
hoping to pick up some ideas.
Well, and when it comes down to the hiring challenge that everyone's facing, is that impacting the availability of potential franchisees as well? Or do you think it's had an impact? And Angela, yourself as well, if any of your clients have experienced this, but is it having an impact on people wanting to look, if they wanted to get into their own business, at the hospitality industry as an option?
Yeah, so I can definitely take that. So Darren, I literally just had this conversation on a call, with one of my clients today, where I had to provide a quarterly report on where everything was at in his entire database of all the work that I've done. And so we spent a good hour and a half reviewing everything. And part of it, as I said, some of the challenges that we need to call out are, the restaurant industry. Even though, some brands like pizza, chicken, those categories have still done very well, and burgers have done very well, and there's lots of those popping up as well. That kind of fast food. There's also a trend on healthy that's pushing out, that's going to continue to push out. But all these trends are interesting, but because of all of the negative media and that day after day hammering that we received in just social and everything about how horrible the restaurant industry is and how horrible it is to hire. So what's happening is that I believe, and what I've seen is that somebody new, there's sort of 3 buckets. Somebody new to the game that normally would consider franchising in a food space because it's a go-to, it's the known, it's the thing that's usually proven, because we see golden arches and we see coffee cups and we see signage everywhere that indicates that's a profitable business opportunity. They're starting to be more hesitant, and I feel that in my pipeline they take longer because realistically they just have lots more questions, and then also they're concerned, right?
Right.
Will I be able to staff my business? Will I be able to? You have to kind of go through all of these objections before you even get them to, a valuable conversation, I would say. You're kind of running PR front for the restaurant industry as a whole. And
Right.
the second bucket are the ones that there's been a lot of tech boom and people cashing out, and there's a lot of private equity, private money floating around. People that have been in the know have known that for a little while now that there's a massive financial shift happening, and they've cashed in or cashed out assets, and they have this kind of sitting on a bit of a nest egg, and they're like, okay, I've got to pick something. I've got to pick a horse, but what horse do I bet on, right? And so there's that going on. So I've been tapping into a lot of private equity and these family wealth offices that have been a huge resource for me, because I know that they have the ears of those lenders or excuse me, not those lenders, but those investors, and it sometimes makes the deal easier, because they already have that kind of point person. And then the third bucket is really the ones, honestly, that are in the business that we know and love, and we know a lot of these guys and girls that have really grown successfully, and they know how to ride a wave. Right. So I think it's really understanding early on in a conversation in growth, or talking to people, where are they at, what position are they taking, and then just making a list of objections to overcome. And sometimes, it's not the right time. I've said to people, That's great. You know, it sounds like you have a lot of concerns, and I'm not going to be able to tackle all of them and you know, through the course of this call. But I think statistics don't lie. And, you know, I always like to lean on numbers. So statistically, you know, restaurants are still, you know, the restaurant industry as a whole, even though there is a negative PR kind of play that's been going on, or overtone, there's still a lot, statistically, still restaurants are the #1 choice with people in Canada for franchising. And, you know, a close second is that service base. So I'm seeing a lot of home-based services that are coming forward that are competing with those people or those restaurants. And that's because of just women being outed. You know, obviously women have really taken the brunt, unfortunately, of you know, COVID-19 and the impact, and as typically primary caregivers, to generalize. And so the result of that has been they still want to work and they still want to earn income, but, you know, family needs may have shifted. Maybe they're caring for somebody, you know, an elder or kids, and, you know, the commute doesn't work anymore. So
Right.
it's just really being mindful of that.
Okay, good. And there's a lot of stuff in there that I want to kind of pull from, but just, you know, is there really one way of growth that's better than other? Is, you know, would you say that franchising is the best way to go, or would you suggest that, you know, a second location that you're running yourself is a better way to start to see how it goes? Or is it really dependent on the brand, the client, and, you know, what the people are looking for?
Mm.
Because there's benefits to both sides,
Yeah,
and there's risks to both sides.
I think it depends. I think right now I still think franchising as a whole is the best way to go. But I think, you know, I'm going to say that. um, but I think franchising is still it is the best way to grow. I think it's just understanding, like, you, to your point, Darren, why are people franchising? Are they ready to franchise? And there are many brands that, you know, I filter out pretty quickly. You know, I get approached. You've been on some of my calls. You know, we get approached to help people franchise, and, you know, I don't take on everybody. And sometimes it's like, well, I'm not here to, you know, grow another gray hair or beat my head up against a wall. And some people's intentions are not the greatest when they enter franchising in terms of,
Right.
um, you know, what their goals are. And for me personally, it's just not the right fit, you know. But I think in terms of the long-term objectives, and franchising is obviously still, you know, 1 in 12 jobs or 1 in 11 jobs in Canada are still directly related or indirectly related to franchising. And, you know, it's a great economic driver still.
Okay, good. So guys, as we're going through, if you have any questions or thoughts or input on, please feel free just to unmute yourself and jump in. Or if you want, you can put it in the chat and I can pull it forward as well. You know, when I think about some of these brands that I mentioned earlier, some of the stuff that I think really that has allowed them to grow has been their presence. They've made sure that people are aware of who they are, and they've actually been a little bit bigger in their marketing than they are as far as units go. You know, and it seems to be a strategy. And there's people that, you know, for those of you who know who Grant Cardone is, that's one of his things. You need to be known so you can get flown. But it's really that, you know, marketing is kind of a big part of getting you that ability to grow. So I'd love to hear anybody's feedback on that. If you think that is, if you share that thought. But to me, it's, you're seeing these guys who are going out there, and not only they're doing a commercial for their product, they're highlighting, we just opened another one, we've got another one coming up, we're going to be doing this, we've made this partnership. They're celebrating their successes publicly, so it continues to make people think about them and a little bit more top of mind. You know, you look at what Ghost Kitchen brand has done and the stuff that they've just signed on with. I mean, no small feat signing on with Shaq, right, and getting his chicken brand into some of their locations. So, you know, you put that out there and people are going to take notice, right? Smokes Poutineery in their poutine eating contest. I wish I could have seen that live. It would have been absolutely phenomenal to witness. But these are just some of the interesting things. So I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on those types of things. Do you think that the marketing is an important part to build your reputation before you consider doing that? Or would you want that to be kind of a secondary piece? Do you think that should wait until there's a little bit more of an established plan? And Jasmine, welcome to the group, and feel free to join in at any point. But what do you guys think about marketing? Is it the first part of making this happen, or is there more to it? Don't all jump in at once.
Well, I mean, I drive marketing. I build it into my business planning when I work with clients, Darren. So
Yep.
that, I mean, even if they have 0 units or 1 unit, they still need to consider what is their marketing budget. And I mean, for me personally, I've seen brands that have attempted to market on their own. And, you ask them, what is their marketing strategy? They're like, well, I'm going to buy Facebook ads. Okay, cool. Awesome. And what is your goal? What is your strategy of those Facebook ads? And how are you doing it? And it's not just a one and done. It's really, when you're marketing, it's, to your point, there needs to be a strategy at every level. There needs to be a social media strategy. There needs to be in terms of messaging, is the messaging proper? So is there the materials, do they need to be updated? Are they outdated at this point? Is the messaging on key? Is it, maybe it's the founder, you've gone through, 4, 5, 6 different iterations of your brand messaging. So usually I like to start there. And then it's rinse and repeat. We are growing. We are looking for franchisees in XYZ cities. Spread the word. And then friends and family, leaning on those lists as well. But, quite often what I see is people who, in brands that are looking at growth, and they kind of look at marketing as a necessary evil, but they don't give it enough weight. And I'm going to share some tips that I've learned, over the last month, because I work with some pretty interesting brands that are in very young growth stages, and they're competing with a lot of other companies in the same space. And quite honestly, I have done weird stuff, like I've done open houses, I've done walkthrough tours, I've done virtual tours. I've posted ads to Kijiji, and don't laugh, but it's literally free. And I've had 2 people go to disclosure that have franchise and business experience, that they just spend their time on Kijiji looking for businesses. Like there's I mean, hey, if you don't have to spend money, I'm not going to tell somebody to spend money. The other thing is on the marketing and podcast side. So, looking at your brands, are the leaders sellable? And if they're not sellable, let's give them a buffer. Some clients, some people are a little bit more dry than others, and they don't like to do presentations, or they're just not, it's not their thing. So making sure that you have a buffer to really get people jazzed about the opportunity and why they should even buy, because they're competing for space, right? They're competing for airtime as well.
Right.
And at the end of the day, in the restaurant industry, because that's the ones that, we know the most, it's just the number one question I'm getting asked pretty bluntly. Before, at least people would dance around it, but now the first or second question is always, well, what's my ROI? What can I make? I don't understand. I'm like, I can't answer that. So it's, from a marketing perspective, you really need to think about, what is your strategy? Do you have the right people in the team behind you? And if not, then, to lean on, somebody like, I don't know, myself or somebody else in the industry that, has a full marketing team that can do radio and media and all that fun stuff.
Right. And that is a benefit that, the larger ones do have, that they have some of those facilities, sometimes in-house or out, that they're connected to, that can help them do that stuff. But to your point, there are inexpensive ways to do these things, to grow your brand, to get knowledge out there. And it's just utilizing those tools and being active on them, being engaged with them, right? So, and we've talked about this before on how the impact of social media, where you'll have 2 restaurants side by side, both have social media pages. One has 20,000 followers, one has 200 followers. And it's just because of their activity, utilizing those spaces to talk about their brand and what they're doing. So it is a great way, especially with what we've gone through the last 20 plus months, to communicate and stay in touch with your guests. So it's definitely, I think, a big part of being able to grow when you become that top of mind thing. I mean, I even had a conversation with the church. Before this, I had a meeting with a local church because I helped them plan a tailgate party this year. Yes, the churches down here throw tailgate parties, and there was beer at that. So that's welcome to church in the US. But, different swag because it was open to the entire community, but things that people can walk away with to know that, what the church is, one, two, that they have a preschool that people can go to, and people are always looking for new places for their kids. So it's again, getting known and getting the word out about who you are is a big part of making the decision that if you have that recognition, it's going to be a lot easier for you to move to that next step. And I agree that franchising, it can be a great thing, but you need to be prepared for it. And I know, Angela, you and I have had conversations about that, but if you're not set and you don't have all the tools and the things you need to move into that, opening up a second location or a third location on your own might be the better first step, because you're only dealing with yourself at that point and you're not responsible, because becoming a franchisor is a lot of responsibility. And I don't think people fully understand that. But the ones that are doing well with it made those preparations. They've got all the information and all the legal stuff that they need to have. And there's a lot more to it than people think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Darren, you were on a couple of those calls that we had over the last few weeks, right? And
Yep.
that's pretty typical of, the good, bad, and the ugly of franchising. And
Yep.
it's sort of, and it's hard because, we come from amazing brands and, come from brands where there's great processes and procedures and structure. And, you kind of forget that a little bit, that luxury. And then when you get into the cold, hard world of everybody else and the other 80 or 90% that are still struggling to grow their brands because they're under 50 units or 75 units, and you're just like, wow, that's really different. And so part of that is, just based on bad advisors, unfortunately, and bad consultants. And I would say 90% of the clients that I've received from COVID have been those that have had to, unfortunately, handle or work with just bad advisors and people that just didn't really care about their brands, and they weren't passionate, and they were happy to take a check, and maybe they had their own stuff going on and just trying to pay bills, and motivation maybe wasn't in the right spot. Not again, I'm going to make assumptions there, but that was the gist of what I saw. And I saw, young franchisors really suffer that made bad decisions, and they thought franchising was going to be the end all be all based on advising that they had to grow their brand and be super successful. And I even think to the conversation we had the other day where the person that we were speaking with said that, well, he was going to grow his restaurant to 30 locations or something in 1 year. And I said, if anybody told you that, remember, I was like, if anybody told you that they can do that for you, they're lying. I was just, if I, again, you try your best, but it's just, it doesn't usually happen, especially in the space that he's in, in the space that he's in.
Right.
Yeah, Score, I wanted to talk a little bit about, so like my pizza brand, what they did when you talk about growth, they actually stopped growth. And I know a couple of brands that I've worked with and that I've heard of that did stop growth during COVID, strategically. I can think of Ito Japan was one where they really just kind of put everything on pause for a little while. They're growing again, obviously now, but there's been some brands that they really wanted to stabilize. And I really thought that was interesting because, a lot of brands were really monopolizing during that time. There were like those young brands, we talk about growth, you look at Smokes and you look at some burrito brands were doing really well, and they were just eating it all up. Like, excuse the pun, like just, there were so many people sitting at home online and bored, nothing to do. The biggest challenge of growing a brand is sometimes getting a captive audience. And quite often when we're trying to market or talk to people, well, they're at jobs, they've got families, they've got other stuff going on, they've got lives, right? Like that's, normal. And then all of a sudden, this awesome or not awesome thing happened, which was the pandemic, and everybody was at home, but awesome in the sense that now everybody's bored and they've watched their last Netflix series and they're online and they're looking for anything else. They're looking for information. They're looking for the next best thing. They're looking for, you know, just they actually have time on their hands. So a lot of brands did capitalize on that time and they grew because they captured those leads and had great discovery tours, and there was a lot of nimbleness that happened in terms of virtual discovery tours throughout that time, and a lot of brands were closing deals without even meeting franchisees until literally the location opened. It was so weird, but you know, and okay, you know, that's great. Just the challenge will be, you know, throughout that is this, just that developing that trust and that relationship always. You know, you're not getting that valuable face time, as you know, is really key.
Right.
And then the second part, when we're coming, you know, through COVID and, you know, leaning on some examples that I have, is the ones that had stopped growing or paused growing is really because most of them were young, or that they were looking to go into new markets. They were strategically considering the fact that, you know, is this really the best opportunity, or should we focus on making sure our franchisees are happy? And I really like that approach, actually. Sorry, my apologies. So I really like that approach. I thought that was quite interesting, that that the ones that had stopped, they, like, I've heard stories where they paused royalties, they spent time in the restaurants or in the businesses, they worked alongside franchisees, they sent out teams. It was like all hands on deck. And I think that to me is like a really an honorable way to do business, because they're in it for the long game, right? And I love
Right.
that. I think, you know, people who grew a lot, I always think about the panic. Like when I was a recruiter, you think about, what is somebody's intentions when they're unemployed? Right, Darren? Like, what is their intention? To get a job.
Get a
Right?
job. Yep.
Right. What is someone's intentions? What is someone's intentions when they're at home and they're thinking the world is coming to an end, or their life is coming to an end, or maybe their marriage is coming to an end, and whatever, you know, and they're like, okay, I just need something. I need to dump my money somewhere. Like, I foresee a lot of pain in the future, is what I'm going to say. I'm going to predict that if I have a crystal ball, give it another year or two, and there's going to be a lot of buy sells going on.
Well, and very possibly. And if you do have that crystal ball, I'll take the 649 numbers or the Powerball numbers. Thank you very much. But you know, I'm glad you went to that pause, because I mentioned at the beginning of the show when I talked about the one brand Dodo, who also did that, because for that very reason. And I wanted to ask, you know, could that, or should that be a standard part of your growth strategy? And do you think that's what's helped, you know, if maybe a brand stopped at the beginning and now is getting back into it, do you think that can actually help your growth plan by doing that pause and refocusing and then moving forward?
Well, I think that having a strategic pause is better than having a reactive pause.
Right.
And I think if I was a franchisee, I would want to know, in terms of growth strategies, when is enough, and then what support will I receive? Because growth is great. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's fantastic to grow, and it's great for all the reasons that we know in terms of money and royalties and brand recognition. But, you know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of franchisees who may be left feeling like they were holding the bag, or that they were left out high and dry. And I also have very firsthand experiences witnessing that, where franchisees were left to open up restaurants on their own, or left to do their own marketing, and they didn't even have an opening team, or they couldn't get products. And on the fixed side, I've seen a lot of that happen. And, you know, that's really counterintuitive. Like, you want to grow, but you also don't mind, I guess, you know, handling that bad PR, or things getting out in the media potentially. It's very odd. So I think I love that idea, Darren. I would love to spend some time on that strategic pause. Like, okay, we're going to grow 10, and then we're going to reassess, like, what talent we're going to spend. That maybe it's a quarterly reassessment or biannual reassessment as to, can we handle it? What talent do we need to add? You know, and that make that part of the strategic planning, where a lot of brands don't do that. Like,
Right.
They're just happy, and I've seen that, like especially the young ones, they're just happy to take the, like, I don't want to say they're just happy, but a lot of them are very happy to take the check, and
Yeah.
they're like, we'll figure it out later. And I'm like, okay, that's probably not the right answer.
Grow, yeah. Growth for growth's sake, as opposed to growth to better and grow the brand. Right.
Yeah, like you're going to kill your brand, as soon as people start catching wind. Again, going back to my original point. I've seen many deals die in validation because when they get that disclosure document, you can't hide anything in there. Oh, how many buy sales did you have? How many locations closed? How many franchisees do you have left standing? Oh, great. Let me give them a phone call. And then you call them up. Hello, hi franchisee. How are things going? Oh, my franchisor sucks. I haven't seen anybody from head office in 6 months. They took my check and blah blah blah, and then there you go. Like, you have to think about that. Again,
Yeah.
mystery shop your brand before you decide to grow. Make sure your franchisees are really happy.
Yeah, most definitely. Awesome. Guys, any thoughts from the group on that? Warren, I wanted to ask you, with some of the stuff that we're talking about, you're dealing with students who are going into, the culinary field, and some of them are going to work in restaurants. Some of them might be talking about opening their own restaurants. Are there certain things that that you're talking to them about, and tools that you're sharing with them? I'm assuming there's a business course that assists them with determining that type of stuff.
Yeah. So I found it interesting listening to the marketing piece there. And that's something that well, marketing and market research is one of the things we talk about. But I try and I don't necessarily push we don't discuss the franchise aspect that much, because that's not my area of expertise per se. But
Right.
we do talk about the marketing component, and we talk about different the different aspects of creating a marketing plan. But having that strategy is something that we definitely talk about. So is it business growth? Is it market growth? Is it capturing a certain target market or new target markets, or are you going after are you going out to compete against a certain competitor? Is pricing your strategy? So yeah, I always try and get my students to focus on with the marketing piece, try to focus on different strategies. And I also emphasize that businesses, a successful business is not just going to focus on one strategy. They can have like several different strategies going at the same time, but it has to be calculated. You have to have a plan, and you can't just sort of wing it, per se. But yeah, that's something that we definitely discuss at George Brown College in our culinary degree. So and they get to analyze those different aspects of business and operations, and to your point, there are some students that are interested in opening their own business. So that's something that we talk about as well. So I'll tell them, I'll say, put on your business hat, put on your entrepreneur hat. If this is something that you're going to do, or something that you're going to take part in, how are you going to execute it? And that marketing piece is, in terms of a larger operation, is not necessarily a small piece, but it's definitely a pertinent piece, and you can't necessarily forget it, because when you have all the different costs that you have to manage, labor, food costs, all the different variables that are going to come your way, marketing is a piece that you have to consider. And whether you want to invest in it or not, it's I tell them as well that it's your brand going out there. So how are you going to position your brand in the minds of your potential customers and create a competitive advantage?
Nice.
That's amazing. Warren, it's funny, I'm laughing just because the client that I just I'm still working with, but it's just across from George Brown in Toronto is Mavericks, right? So
Oh,
Mavericks,
really?
yeah, so Mavericks just opened up, and Daryl's awesome. I sat on the board for his stuff. I did some of his menu consulting, and
Okay.
one of the conversations we had was, I know he's going to be doing some stuff with George Brown
Hmm.
to get the students in, but
Hmm.
marketing has been a really big conversation where, at one point he was just so busy with family and life and his day job,
Yeah.
that, coming into the fall, and then of course typical restaurant stuff where stuff doesn't open on time,
Right.
the beautiful marketing plan that we wrote was really put on pause.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but now things are back up and running, and things are on the path now that the grand opening is coming.
All
But
right.
but yeah, it's really interesting to hear you say that, because it's so true.
Mhm.
The other thing too is, to your point, I know that out of COVID, one of the awesome things that I saw was these um, guides slash consultants slash people in industry form these different think tank groups. So there's a
Mhm.
number of them in Canada and the US
Yep.
that are forming to help out these students or help out these young minds, because they're a wealth of knowledge and information and aspiration, which is so wonderful to see and motivational, for us who have been in industry for a while.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, yeah, that's such a great idea, right? And the ideas are ridiculous, like unbelievable, and so there's a lot of these think tanks that are coming out that are, helping them, giving them, like, whether it's grants or advice or mentoring or
Right.
franchise opportunities or free marketing. Like there's all kinds of support
For
available
sure.
to those younger minds, which is
Yeah.
amazing. They
Now,
seem to
where is this?
have,
Sorry, where is this Mavericks? Where is it again? Just, I know we're going off topic a little bit, but
oh
sorry.
my God, it's 15 Merchants Wharf, right across, like right around the corner from Sugar Beach.
Oh, down on waterfront. Okay,
Yeah.
got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, neat. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I tell my students as well, like just to finish this, I think that to everyone's point, what we see in the media, it's a lot of harshness in the industry right now. Even on the weekend, I was reading an article that talked about restaurants struggling because costs are continue to go up, and they have to pass those costs down to the customer. And then the customer is thinking that, oh, the restaurant is being greedy because they're increasing menu prices. Well, no, menu prices are going up because the cost of butter is going up like 5-10%. Cost of just raw goods is going up across the board like 5, 10, 15, 20%. So some customers, and the point of the article is that some customers don't really understand that that there is this cost factor to dining out. So I think there's going to be opportunity as well on the flip side for a lot of students and a lot of young people coming into the industry, despite the fact that many have left. And whether it's a single small business, an SME, or even a franchise, I still think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in a year, maybe two. I think
Mhm.
that's my vision. That's my crystal ball thing.
Oh, I agree. I couldn't agree more. People, at the end of the day, we still need to eat. We all grew up watching, well, most of us grew up watching the Jetsons, and, hey, guess what? We're not eating pills or powder packs. We do like our food, and we're actually a lot pickier when it comes to our food and
For
our
sure.
sourcing and where it comes from. So I
Mhm.
think there's just a great market for that. As the new generation coming in are just more aware and more socially conscious than ever. And I think there's just great opportunity abound, and unfortunately or fortunately, it's just a cleansing of state, right? Some brands will not survive, and
Mhm.
sometimes that's horrible, sometimes that's bad, right? So I think it's just it's not a bad thing. I think in this regard, where we need to make room for some of these innovative and young minds who want to develop an amazing new concept or brand or ghost kitchen or pop up or who knows, right?
No,
So
for sure.
And
so
and
cool.
those are some of the things too. I mean, when you're talking about some of these young minds and wanting to get into it, they've got the energy, they've got the excitement. They may not be they may not have the financial side of things, but, you know, getting them in with the understanding you do X, Y, Z, and there may be an opportunity for you to, you know, get one of your own and that kind of thing. So there's lots of different ways to look at that, right? And, you know, I've always been a proponent of looking at, you know, for our industry, and I don't think we do a good enough job of this, to help us grow, is to find people who have gone to hospitality schools and culinary schools who want to be in this business, because they're going to have the heart and drive and probably a better chance of success for you. So definitely something that I think we need to do a better job of. So thank you guys for sharing that. I did want to go into one other thing, because it is something that has come up in some of my conversations recently, and I'm seeing a bit of a change and even a move back towards, I know when I was with Tim's in the early days, we did this, more non-traditional style sites. You know, because of some of the increase in cost. I mean, you're seeing a lot of these smaller, you know, down here we've got Caribou Coffee that's going to the little huts, Scooter's Coffee that's got the little huts. We've got other brand I talked to in Canada who is looking to grow right now in other countries, just in the non-traditional, working with some of those bigger companies, because there's less of a, I guess, less of a potential impact. But it also gets you, you know, a little bit more exposure on a quicker basis as well. So I don't know, Angela, if you've come across that, or if anybody else in the call is experiencing that or using that strategy. But, you know, it worked very well for Tim's in the early days. It really got you into a new market and got you exposure. Even going into food trucks, I've seen that happen for some newer brands to come into a market with that food truck to, you know, let people know who they are before they come in with a bricks and mortar style facility. So any thoughts on that, guys? Anybody, has anybody seen that with a new brand, or have you seen a
Well,
sorry.
Darren, I just think it's really like, you know, I have this chat, like, again, I'm going back to some of my food brands, but we have this chat all the time right now, because it's just, you know, the average Canadian, you know, we have go back, I love statistics, so go back to numbers. You know, the average Canadian investor, you know, they don't have $500,000 or $1 million to spend on a restaurant to give it up to chance and hope for the best that it's going to succeed. And so then we're relying on those multi-unit, you know, like those ones that have already got the experience and the cash flow. The other, you know, which again is not majority of Canada. And because of the flex of job stability and also change in the economy when it comes to where just people's minds and hearts are at, again, going back to my earlier point, we need to now create opportunity to accommodate the market demand. And if you don't create an opportunity, you're going to miss the boat, right? So, you know, creating a non-trad concept or co-brand concept or try whatever, how you want to position it, you know, right. If you're able to do that, it creates some stability, some stability within the company, because yeah, to your point, you're able to get more market awareness faster. You're able to, you know, not have as much risk on both sides of the table. You're able to, you know, not have to enter into a location which, if you know, have a corner end cap unit with like a street facing location and people drive by it every day and they're like, wow, guess what? Wow, where did that go? Like, I have that in St. Catharines right now. Like, there's a very popular chain where they shut down, the franchisee pulled the plug on the location and they moved out and relocated, and you're just like, okay, like, what happened there? You know, what was the story? Yeah. So it's a quieter way. And I think after what happened last year with all of the landlords and you know, the amount of, I think, chapped egos and wallets last year, it's just, people are afraid to get into bed with the wrong landlord, let's face it.
Yeah.
Like,
I hear you. You know, it just, you mentioned some other stuff, and we're quickly running out of time here, guys. And I just wanted to get to this one little last piece here was, you know, you talked a bit about ghost and virtual, Angela, and that's another way that a lot of brands have started to grow. I know early on in the pandemic, Nathan's Hot Dogs was putting out there, hey, if you want to add our brand to your restaurant, reach out to us, right? I mean, that's an opportunity. And now you see that, you know, like White Label Kitchen, who we know that who that is, but he's got, you know, Beast Burger and all these other brands, these other big brands are growing their awareness through making these partnerships. You can go into an existing facility where they are preparing your food to your standards and all of that, but it's creating that awareness a lot faster than having to go into a market and do a whole bricks and mortar or any of the other things. So, I think one of the things, and I've said this before, that has really come out of the pandemic is it's really forced us to be a little bit more innovative. I'm not going to use the P word because everybody hates it, even though there's a new show on TV called Pivoting, which I just don't know if I can watch it. But it's forced us to be more creative. It's forced us to be more open-minded, to look at new technologies, look at new ideas, and look at different ways of doing things to be able to connect with our guests and make sure that we're able to grow when the time is right. So, guys, we got 5 minutes left. Just any other notes? Anybody would like to share, or any questions on some of the stuff we've talked about so far this evening? And Frank, Dan, I know you guys got on a little late, but if there's any questions or thoughts you have on growth during a pandemic or any experiences you'd like to share, I'd be more than happy to hear them. Dan, if you want to unmute yourself and go right ahead and share, we'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you all for inviting me. It's great to be with you all. So I just sold my 26-year restaurant to my CPA 2 months ago.
Oh, wow.
It's a great time not to be in the restaurant business. and so I ended it with a check. I sold my restaurant. My employees have a soft landing. My customers have a great place to go. And I didn't have to answer one question during the turnover, like, where's this, or how do you do this? Because they already had all the processes in place, which is great. So I feel great about that. And what I'd like to share is there's two things. What I did during some of the time. So I'm in Chicago, and I have a small fine dining white tablecloth restaurant. So what I did, I was shut down for 5.5 months the first time. When I reopened, I made a prefix menu for everybody that walked in. Everybody walked in, they spent $65 plus wine, plus tax and tip. So the check average was $108. It was awesome. Nice. It was great. It was big. So it was $108. People didn't mind spending that at all. So what I did was I made 4 courses that everybody had to eat to come in. And what really happened was I only had one guy in the kitchen and one in the dining room. So that's all I could have, because nobody else I couldn't get anybody else to work. So actually I was more profitable during that time than any time. The hour I opened from 5 to 8, 3 days a week. And I was more profitable on those days than anything possible. So that's, and the waitress that I trained, she made more money than ever. She made more money than ever. And the chef he would handle 25 people. He could do it by himself and wash dishes, and he was great. So that was my win. That really happened for there. What I'm seeing in the market right now is I've been working on an app called the Menu Profit Solution for a few years now, and I've been going into restaurants, and maybe you all can help me understand the minds of restaurant owners. Is they're getting crushed. The independent guys are getting crushed, and gals, they're getting crushed, and they don't even know it, because I heard 5-10%. No, COGS have gone up 35, 45, 50% all, and they're not raising prices or adjusting their profitability margins at all. Right. So that's what I'm really seeing. The larger chains have it under control. what the independent people are, they're not getting it.
Yeah.
They're not getting it. That's my 2 cents.
All right, I appreciate that. And I've seen a lot of that as well, and I'm sure Angela, you've seen it as well. Where, I mean, when things started to reopen, and I'm in Minnesota, Dan, I started seeing people going back to what they were doing before, right? Because we're creatures of habit in this industry, and don't like to change very much. I know my business. I don't know how many guys I've talked to, and it's like, well, I know my business. I know what my costs are. And I said, oh yeah, so your P&Ls are looking good. Well, I don't do P&Ls. There's money in the bank. I know what I'm doing. It's surprising how many of the people in this industry don't have a good handle, not only on how to deal with that stuff, but how to get the education or somebody to support them to be more efficient in those things. And sometimes it's going to be increasing your prices. Sometimes it's going to be just looking at your labor a little bit differently, as opposed to a labor percentage. Look at a labor, a productivity target. Maybe you need to focus on growing the top line so that instead of cutting the bottom lines. There's so many different ways to look at it to be more successful. It's just, I think we have a lot of pride. We've worked hard, and it's tough to find somebody else, tough to listen to the ideas of somebody else to get there when we've put so much of ourselves into these businesses. We take it personally, I think, is part of it. Angela, if you want to comment on that, or
I think you said it very well, Darren. So I'm good, actually. You're always so well spoken.
Walk softly and carry a big shovel has always been my motto. So,
yes. Well, so let me ask you, Darren, when you see somebody that has a lot of pride, that is getting crushed, what's the message that can get through to them?
You've got to play into it. You've got to work them around to get to the point where it becomes their idea. Right. So, and you got to respect what they've done, because if they've been, I mean, you had your restaurant for 26 years. I mean, you probably understand the mind better than you think. But, I've worked with a lot of franchisees, and even in a franchise system where you've got processes and everything that they're supposed to be following, everybody thinks they're an independent restaurant operator and can do whatever they want. And it's really kind of talking them through the process, listening to what they have to say, and say, you know what, I hear you on that. And then you kind of walk them down slowly the path to say, well, this, and this, or you show them the dollars and cents, right? If you can show them the impact, because that gets all of us real quick. If you can show the impact of the pocketbook, then you're going to have a pretty quick win. But it does take a little bit of listening, and stroking a little bit to say, you know what, that's great. I mean, you've got a great business. And professional, like, you're not being facetious. You're not condescending in any way, because, this person, one, they've taken the time to talk to you. So, appreciate that. But they've also been in business for a certain period of time. So it's not like they don't know what they're doing. But we all on the call, I'm sure, have been in that situation where you've been looking at something for so long that something be right in front of you and you can't see it. Right? It's that fresh set of eyes. And it's just, if you can create a couple of small wins to start, it opens up the communication a little bit more. It brings the guards down and allows you to get a little deeper into things. So those are the stuff that I try and do, and I've had success with in different conversations I've had. But sometimes, there's some people that just don't want help.
Darren, can I ask a quick question? I know we're at the end, but am I correct in assuming that there are some franchisees who get into a franchise without like a solid understanding of the restaurant business or food service business? And the reason I ask that is because sometimes that comes up in some of our classroom discussions. Right. And what I tell my students is, if you want to really get to understand some of the nuts and bolts of a food service operation, work with a franchise, because that will, at the end of your term, whenever you're, if you do a stint with a franchise or franchised operation, by the time you get to the point where you want to open your own business, you have a solid understanding, of the restaurant business. Yeah. So I try and tell my students that as well. Don't sometimes they have this idea that, oh, I don't want to open a franchise, you know, like what's that, what, you know, but at the same time, I tell them, you know what, they have the systems in place. They have the training. And if you come out of, say, culinary school or culinary, come out with a culinary degree, join a franchised operation, there's a good opportunity for learning right there.
Yep.
You know, because I've seen on a couple other you know, restaurant owners running a franchised operation, and I didn't say anything to them, but I watched them run it into the ground, and they're just
Yep.
like, holy cow, like.
Yeah, and you do get that. And you know what, Warren, I think there's a couple of things there. I mean, what you were talking about earlier before we got started, the friend that you competed against, who's he working for now? Right? There's
Sorry,
somebody
yeah,
who's,
he's at, yeah,
he's working in a franchise system now, right?
absolutely.
So there is
Yeah.
a classically trained chef who
Mhm.
is working in a franchise system. So it's a great example. But you know, I know in my old life, and I do this even when I'm bringing people into any of the restaurants that I'm working with, I'm looking for attitude over aptitude and experience. A little, you know, some experience is great, but if they've got that right attitude, I can teach you how to punch in an order. I can teach you the menu. I can show you how to, you know, carry plates and do dishes and
Sure.
prepare this and prepare that. If you don't have the right attitude, you're not right for this business. And I think that's where it starts. I've brought in a lot of people into the restaurant industry who had no restaurant history, but they had a great attitude. They worked their business, so they were in it on a daily basis, and they learned it. And in the franchise system, to some of the points you were making, they do have a lot of those processes put together. I mean, you're not going to be in a franchise system and not have to share a P&L,
Right.
because they want to know you're successful. The success of the franchise is based on the success of the franchisees in most cases. So you're going to have a lot of tools that will set you up when you get into your own restaurant. You're going to know how to do inventory. You're going to know how to do ordering. You're going to know how to, you know, lay out a restaurant. You're going to know how to do your P&Ls, hiring, firing, all that kind of stuff. Is just, there's a lot of tools that can come from that to set you up for great success. So, you know, I think it is a good thought to suggest that to them, because it definitely does do that for you.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, Darren, just to add to that, it's just, you know, it's just sometimes a longer learning curve, but sometimes it, you know, in a lot of instances, it pays off. I mean, you think about our careers, even, you know, I didn't go to school or get classically trained in hospitality, right? But I landed for, I don't know, still to this day why they hired me, but I feel bad for them. But, you know, I landed at a 5-star hotel chain, right? So,
Yeah.
so as a concierge, I mean, I didn't go to school for that, but I knew the market. I had a great attitude. I knew the area really well. I was well connected in my community. So, you know, they gave me a chance and started me slow and trained me. And like by the end of 2 years, I was like, you know, okay, now what's next? Like, let's go for the gold keys. I don't know. And so you kind of hit that mark, right? Where you started the same way. If you didn't have those opportunities that were given, I think that sometimes motivates people more because they know they have to work harder to prove themselves.
I agree 100%. Good.
I'm not discounting school though, Warren, just for the record.
No.
Yeah, if I could do it all
not.
again, like, you
course
know,
not.
but you know, but it is one of those things where having that area of opportunity, and that's from a recruitment perspective, a lot of people lose sight of that. Like, you know, statistically, we retain 25% of what we learn in school after a few years. You know, it's 25. It goes down every year. So let's look at what are the gaps and what are the areas of opportunity. And people who are very motivated, you know, they want to be continual learners, and they're not going to be motivated by, you know, cutting and pasting what they learned in school and not having opportunities to grow. So.
Yep. Awesome. Good points, guys. Thank you so much. Well, listen, guys, we are past the hour. Thank you very much for being patient and sticking around. If there are any other last minute thoughts people would like to share, you know, quickly go ahead and do that. If not, I will say thank you very much to everybody for joining this evening. I appreciate it. As always, the recording will be posted online as soon as I get it. And as a reminder, December will be our 1-year anniversary of Great Minds Sessions, and I'm going to try and plan something that's going to be a little bit of fun. I hope you will all join us and celebrate our 1-year anniversary.
Excellent.
All right.
Congratulations.
Sounds good.
Thank you, guys. Have a great evening. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And if there's anything that I can do to help, you can reach out to me either through greatmindsessions@gmail.com or look up Darren Adair on LinkedIn and send me a message. I'll be happy to connect and do what I can to help. Thank you,
Thank you
guys.
very much. Good night, everybody.
Good
Good night,
night.
everyone. Bye.
Okay.